under the weight of an intimidated civil service in the parliament. If you quietly interview the civil servants in the parliament, they'll tell you that now they can breathe. Only an inquiry will be able to establish who got jobs wrongly without being qualified, while those who are qualified are being bypassed. Those who are not qualified are being promoted. Nepotism was at its highest. A patronage system was set in place. I'm told many influential people got their children to get jobs in parliament in exchange for their loyalty. That it includes ministers, judges, all sorts of people. So, we call upon the new leadership of parliament to exercise vigilance so that we get to the root of the rot in parliament. You all know, like I said before, and I saw somebody wrote an article in the Monitor that Mao fought a fight which nobody wanted to fight. Everybody was dancing around the problem. It is like if you have a big snake and everybody is saying, there is a snake, and they are just making an alarm, but doing nothing. Civil society was making an alarm, MPs were making an alarm, the opposition leaders in parliament were making an alarm. But the problem was the position of speaker, because that's the position and office which was being abused. Someone needed to shake that chair. And that's the only contribution that I made. So we want to ask the new leadership, in addition, to protect the rights and privileges, particularly the freedom of speech of the members of parliament. The members of parliament are protected by law, and as they perform their duties, they need that freedom. In the 11th parliament, members of parliament were interrupted like in no other parliament that I know. You'll be shocked that if you went to the Hansard, you'll find that the presiding officer spoke more than the members of parliament. Yet speakers are not supposed to speak, in the same way that a referee does not kick the ball. But we had presiding officers who had a comment on every speech. It is not the duty of the speaker to color any submission. If the leader of opposition has stood up to speak, the presiding officer should immediately give a chance and a right of reply to the leader of government business. It is not, the presiding officer in parliament is not a judge. A A presiding officer who asks somebody, what do you mean? It's as if you are going to pass a judgment. That can only be perhaps if there is a point raised in accordance with the regulations. But you find a presiding officer who will be addressing the House on the substance of the bill. If you have not addressed it during your communication from the chair, why should you be commenting? If one side is too weak to defend its ideas, so be it. The voters should get wiser in the next election. So I am hoping that the new leadership will stick to that principle. In our letter to the new speaker, we are going to repeat the many points that we had raised earlier. You remember the points that we had raised? I can repeat them. That Parliament must be in session for a minimum of 120 days in a year. We found that on average, Parliament sits for 80 days out of the 365. Would you manage to pay rent if you worked for 80 days? I know sometimes they may be in committees and so on, but there must be a minimum. Number two, the calendar for Parliament must be set at the beginning by a multi-party committee of MPs. We must know what the priority business of the Parliament will be from the first sitting, which was yesterday, to the end of the session, which is going to be next May 2027. We are also asking that the rhetoric of a people-centered parliament should be translated into reality. You cannot say you are going to drive a people-centered agenda for parliament and you are not inviting the public to suggest what should parliament discuss. So the Democratic Party is proposing that special sessions should be held annually where the agenda of parliament is based on public suggestions, focusing on key issues for debate and discussion. If the traders of Kampala want the issue of flooding to be discussed, Parliament should discuss that issue of flooding. And if need be, even set up an ad hoc committee. The rhetoric of data-driven debate, evidence-based debate, cannot work if you send MPs to collect evidence, then you block them from presenting it. The way it happened in the Uganda Airlines case. You want to take a decision based on evidence, and MPs go out and get evidence, then you say, please, we don't want to hear the evidence. Things are okay. We are proposing also that the Prime Minister's question time should be focused on government accountability. It shouldn't be an empty ritual. We are also proposing that there should be days in a session when the opposition is allowed to set the agenda. Many times the opposition have excuses saying they are denied audience. In short, their only job is to react to what government brings in the House. We need to throw this big challenge to the opposition by letting them set the agenda on certain days in the course of the year. After all, they also represent a vital section of the society. You heard the president yesterday crediting the opposition. The fact that you're opposition doesn't mean you have come to prevent the government from performing the job it was elected to do. That's a misguided concept of opposition. When you're opposition, it doesn't mean you have come to do what they call okulemesa. Opposition cannot be about okulemesa. The opposition should be to demonstrate to the country that if you were in charge, you would do a better job. We are also proposing, with the coming of the new chamber, which I hope will be finished within a year, there will be electronic voting so that the public can know how their members voted, instead of hiding behind this aye and no. People must know who supported which clause. And also those who ran away, they will also be recorded. And those who are absent. Right now, there is actually no roll call in Parliament. Or if it is there, it is not recorded. The cabinet is different. The record is clear which cabinet meetings Nobert Mao attended, which cabinet meetings Nobert Mao did not attend, and which ones he missed with apologies and which one he missed without apologies. The record is clear. I liked what I saw in the sovereignty bill process. The public was invited and there were hearings and the public was heard. That should be a given for all bills. Members of the public who are going to be affected by the bills should be invited, and Parliament should be busy listening to them. We expect the new leadership of Parliament to provide support to individual members of Parliament so that they get secretarial research support. The aim is to empower members of Parliament to do their jobs more effectively. You could see the way the members of Parliament were erupting yesterday. True, the rules of procedure provide for the suspension of some rules. But there are rules that cannot be suspended. They are entrenched. Yesterday, some members wanted entrenched rules to be suspended. How can you even think of that? It simply means that you don't have support as a staff. We would like the Hansard to be translated into our local languages so that people know what has transpired in Parliament. The Communications Department of Parliament should be a source of information about Parliament. Right now, when you journalists want information, actually you don't get information. I see most of you just get opinions from the communications office. If you went, for instance, and asked and say, can we have the terms of service of the members of Parliament? The way we have, when we are appointed ministers, we have our terms of service in a document which tells you what you are entitled to. We are proposing a public information office in the Parliament of Uganda where the public can get all the documents that they need. Again, we emphasize what we call pre-legislative consultation. Pre-legislative consultation will allow us not to waste time.